Hello and welcome to Can't Find My Way Home, the podcast where expats from around the globe talk about the music and art scene in their adopted home. I'm your host, Craig. In this episode of Can't Find My Way Home, I was joined by Nick Sanders. Nick is now based in Birmingham, England, but has previously spent several years studying, living and working in South Korea and Japan. We also take a look at his YouTube channel, Yeongki Nick, and of course, there's a top 5. Nick takes us through his experience of living in South Korea, both as a student and then his time working in the countryside and then moving to the capital city of Seoul to teach adults. We also share some of our own initial thoughts and impressions of South Korea and wonder, what is that smell? The two of us try hard not to compare South Korea and Japan, and instead Nick lifts the lid on some of the cultural differences in the workplace, as well as giving us quite a few travel tips. Nick's new project, the YouTube channel Yeongki Nick, is where you can find his informative, educational, insightful and of course entertaining take on learning the Korean language. There's talk of bringing your own personality to this type of project, how he comes up with ideas for new episodes, and of course what kind of things we can expect to see when all this COVID stuff's behind us. We talk social media, getting drunk with Australians in the most unlikely of places, Confucian football fans, not choosing to study physics, and going full cheese. Let's get right into it. Here's Nick Sanders. What we get a wee countdown. This is not very professional, isn't it?
That's nice.
Hi, so you've got
Hello.
stuff for you, Nick.
With moving, is this, or ended up in Asia?
Yeah.
So it started at university. I was originally going to do physics at university, and then at the last minute, I thought that sounded like a dreadful way to spend 4 years sat in a lab by myself. So I just thought I want to do something that's just a bit more open, lets me get out, meet people, do something new. And I ended up choosing Korean studies. Honestly speaking, at the time, I didn't have any big fascination. I didn't have any desires or anything about that. It was just it seemed like a kind of interesting way to get out of the country, learn about a new culture. And I'd seen a couple of movies, and the movies were good, and it was simple as that. I figured that the worst comes to the worst, I end up worst comes to the worst, I end up having learnt a language and lived abroad, and there's worse places to be after uni,
Definitely. What, do you remember what the movies were? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, the same as everybody. The first one was Old Boy, of course.
Right, I was going to say that's.
But then I saw another
classic
one.
right?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's iconic, and I ended up watching the rest of the trilogy. I don't know if you've seen them, but there's Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance as well.
Yeah,
Lady Vengeance is better.
Yeah.
Oh, disagreement then. All right.
Okay. Well, there you go. Once you can save that for later on. But yeah, I think I've only seen it once. If I'm honest, and it was a while ago. I preferred the first two parts of it as opposed to the last part. I thought it was a bit dramatic in certain parts, but interesting enough. Though,
definitely was. Yeah.
The actress he picked for it was kind of well known for that TV show she did at the time. What was it called? Jujo something.
Oh,
no, what was it called? Oh man, Agashi, was that what it was called?
Oh well, Aguilera was the movie that came out not too long ago. I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't watch Korean TV shows much. Apart from yesterday, I just started watching Sweet Home yesterday, but that's it.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is, man. I just gave up. It's like I don't have to watch it. I'm all good.
No, I'm telling you, it's actually okay. There's no love triangle for a start. If that's a selling point, there's no love triangle.
So that must have first then, right?
Yeah, right. And it's a horror.
The producers meeting for that. The guy's like, there's something missing here, man.
I can see that there's definitely 3 people. Why are they not dating?
And how come he's not rich or she's richer? What's going on, right? So,
What does the rich guy's mother think about this?
oh, here we go. We've just written a script between us, man. How does that work?
Actually, we can sack this off and we can get a career making scripts for this stuff. Yeah.
There we go. There's an idea for it. I tell you, man, I'm full of ideas. It's a bit bellboyish, but some will
A
work.
touch.
Excuse me a second.
No,
your relationship with South Korea, then you spent a year. So how does it work then when you go to uni? So you do 3 years of the course, and you spend one of the 4. I'll let you explain it.
Right. So we do 1 year in the UK. Then we went and did a year exchange in Korea. So I was studying at Yonsei University in Shincheon. And so did 1 year there and then back to Sheffield for 2 more years. So like 4 years total.
And the year in South Korea, how did you find it? I mean, that was your first time in Asia?
Yeah, first time. So I was like 19 or 20 at the time. And you can imagine I was restrained, self-control the whole time. No crazy nights, very little drinking. Stayed to myself, studied every evening. It was very restrained.
Diligent and quiet. That's what
Absolutely.
Restrained.
No, it was class. It was class. I'm sure that everybody has kind of the same first year, right? Where it goes a bit over the top and you end up just meeting so many people and having these insane experiences. But I think for me, like the real joy was not just meeting people, but exploring new cuisine as well. Like I didn't know anything really about Korean food before I went, but that was a real highlight.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Andy, just about this time of year, actually. I think it was like the 15th of February. It was the day after Valentine's. It was about the 15th of February 2000. I landed in South Korea, and it was freezing outside. I just remember it was old Kimpo Airport. Incheon was just a glint in someone's eye at this point. And I get out of
surrounded with Kimpo are not so pretty either.
No, and I remember just the doors open, and just remember, oh God, man, how cold is it? And yeah, I didn't have a winter jacket either. My winter jacket gets stolen about a week before I left or something. So I went to Northeast Asia, freezing cold without a winter jacket. I had a fleece. That was it for I was like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm Scottish.
That'll do. Just do the zipper. It'll be all right.
Everybody's looking at me. They're like, oh, I'm fine. So yeah, but yeah, those first impressions you get of the place when you realise that you're just a kind of blot in the landscape or a little kind of dot when there's all these people here, and it's so built up, and then when you start walking around your adjoining neighbourhoods, and you just kind of think, man, this is just a million miles from where I grew up or anything I've experienced before, and especially when you get into the food side of things.
It's awesome. I don't know about you, but I didn't come from a city. I came from a town near Birmingham in England, and it's small. There's a handful of restaurants, and then you go to Seoul, and you can go to certain areas, and there's 300 restaurants within a 2-minute walk, and that's kind of mental. It's a big adjustment.
Yeah, no, I grew up about 20 minutes outside Glasgow, so a town of 70,000 it was at that time when I was growing up.
Similar.
And there was definitely no Koreans or Korean food or Korean movies or anything like that. So yeah, they might know where it is because they played Germany in the World Cup in 1994 or something like that, right? That's about as innocuous as it would get. But yeah, the kind of food's one of the things I find that everybody that I know in my circle of friends, and I'm sure you're the same, who's lived there either as an expat working or studying or working in a real job, whatever it is, but they've come back with this experience of Korean food and just how kind of fantastic it is. I mean, some of it can be okay, right? But the good stuff's great.
I was a sucker for
my
it.
wife actually
just every night my
it.
friends would tell me oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was our little stash last summer,
I found it quite kind of fun when I was there because I meet people out drinking and they'd send me a message saying, let's get dinner tonight. All right, cool. What are we having? And they say something like, let's get galbijjim or something. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. I don't know what that is, but fine. And so every night they would serve you something. You'd be like, cool, that looks right. I don't know. But turns out good, man.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think you have to be kind of at least a little bit adventurous. Or once you go over for me, I just remember the kind of not so much the sights. You kind of get used to tall and and loads of people and all that kind of stuff. But the smells, I mean, Scotland's not really. But yeah, the smells are different. Let's put it that way. There's this kind of
Yeah.
overbearing stench at times, and you just think, man, what? Or there's always this kind of stuff in there, and then you get the yellow dust thing that comes in March or April, and you think, oh man, and then it's hot, it's really hot, and it really rains, and you just think, man, this is just it's like a bit of roller coaster, eh?
When it comes
Nobody
to the
told me
smell, I
about
think
this.
nothing quite compares to, like, do you know if you've been out all night in the summer, right? And then it's in the morning, like about 8, 9 o'clock, and you're leaving the after party and starting to head home, and you end up walking behind the rubbish truck as it picks up all the bags of discarded kimchi in 35-degree heat. Oh, that's potent.
That's a bit ripe, but
Yeah,
yeah, well,
that wakes you up.
hopefully
Gets you
we're
ready
giving.
for the day.
I'm sure. Oh yeah, that's for sure. Man. Hopefully we're portraying a positive image of the land of the morning
The
calm.
food's great and smells great before it's thrown out into the street in the middle of summer. Like it's fine until that point.
Or the mosquito guy, and I'm getting all these flashbacks now. Like this is talking of strange smells. You just get the little truck come up and down those hills on other than Haybank,
The
and you
fumigating.
get this mad puff. Yeah, the fumigating thing. I'm out walking the dog, and next thing you know, there's this mad plume of smoke.
It's like Silent Hill or something all of a sudden.
Oh, man, I kind of miss all those stuff. I mean, I'm not really long for them, but yeah, just kind of weird. Probably
It's
highly illegal in every other country on the planet.
Well, you're sort of thinking this is designed to kill stuff. Is it okay that it's coming where I am? Like, is this fine? Or
The dog's looking at me, I will be fine. What could go wrong?
But yeah, on the whole, man, I absolutely love the country. I love the food and everything, and yeah, just general energy. Like Seoul has a lot of energy, especially on a weekend.
I think it's one of the hidden gems, though, right? I mean, everybody knows. We'll talk about Japan a little bit later on. And that's where you spent quite a bit of time. But yeah, I don't really want to compare them. I don't really think it's. Well, I mean,
Korean people love it when you do that, don't they?
Yeah, I didn't really want to go there because they're both two separate things. I mean,
they are completely different. Yeah,
they're in their own respective rights. But what about the year in South Korea? Then you come back to the degree. So what was the next step then? Where did you end up after that?
So I did the year as a student back to the UK, finished up with my studies and everything, and then I ended up going back to Korea, but not to Seoul. I went to a town called Jangsu, which is in the south, in Jeollado, not far from Jeonju. And so I ended up going there for like a year and teaching at a primary school there. And it was like super in the mountains, like really isolated. I just thought it'd be like an interesting, different experience, something different to do. And it was cool. It was so different to life in Seoul, and the people were kind of different as well, and the views, man. Like I used to walk to school in the morning, and it was in the middle of the mountains, and I walked through the town. It's a small town. You could walk from one side to the other in 10 minutes, like really small town. And you get to the school, and the school was this modern, beautiful school, and you're thinking like, it's kind of odd to have that much money on facilities in the middle of the countryside spent on it, but it's a gorgeous school, football pitch outside, music rooms full of drum kits and, pianos and guitars and amps and everything. And then right next to the school was the oldest Confucian school in Korea.
Wow.
It's kind of surreal,
Was it still being used? Or? Yeah, definitely. Was it still being used?
Actually, yeah, you reminded me of something. It just come to mind. Yeah, it was still like kind of a bit in use. There were a couple of people milling about, and you'd see a couple of the guys in robes every now and again, and people doing like cleaning the grounds and what have you. But I remember one day it was like a summer's night, it's like a weekday summer's night, like quite late, like I'm guessing about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep, and so I thought I'll just go for a bit of a jog and go for a little kickabout on the pitch because it's open even at night. So I just took a football with me, have a little kickabout on the pitch, no problems. So I ran up to the school, did a few laps, did a little kickabout, right? And then I sort of looked over to the Confucian school. The doors were open, and there's about 3 or 4 of the guys sat there, huddled around this big ass screen TV, watching the Champions League.
Yeah. Time
I thought
waits
it was
for
kind of
no
beautiful.
man,
Yeah.
Right. It's I'm trying to remember the name of the test that they use all these for the what's it called? So Gwago Shihom.
Okay, yeah. The
Like
history sort of
the
test.
civil service exams, I believe, like and they can go back into the historical Confucian times. So
Yeah,
this is when
sure.
you see them now, like still doing it, or they reenact it in Seoul somewhere, right? They you see them all with the kind of parchments and big,
Yeah.
mad paintbrushes and all that stuff, and getting down and groovy in a
the kind of
hat
old
kind of way.
Yangban test thing.
Yeah, the Yang Band.
Yeah.
So quite a different experience then going out in the country. Do you think having your linguistic background behind you definitely helped living?
Oh god, yeah. It was just super easy to sort of slip in, and especially with like work, working at the school, because there was like 2 people maybe who spoke English at the school, but because I spoke Korean as well, it was quite easy to just get in and then start going out to like hueshik, to company meals with people, and ended up playing volleyball a lot because that's a thing. Like I don't know, but it was good. It's like entered into society. I mean, the only regrets that I had about that time as such was that I really wanted to learn how to play gayageum while I was there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was like an academy there that taught gayageum, but it was only during the time when I was working, and so I never got the chance to learn that. So a bit disappointing, that one.
And if my memory serves me rightly, there's a girl who plays all these like Jimi Hendrix tracks and whatnot using the Geiger. I can't remember her name, but she's fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I think
she's great. She's like Little Wing and
Sabbath and all that stuff or whatever. Right? She's doing a whole bunch of
like Sultans of Swing.
cool.
I saw her do. And...
So there you go. Anyone who's listening, that's a Geiger. Go and check it out because
definitely
it's
worth it.
a cool thing to do. Yeah. How long did you stay in that town? How long? What was the name of the town again?
That was Jiangsu, like Jangsu, Jiangsu.
Jiangsu. And how long were you there? Did you saw it a year?
Yeah, 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. So as 1 year in Jiangsu, then I moved back up to Seoul. But that time I moved to Haebangchon. I was working in Jongno. That's when we met. Was at that time.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And this was what was that? 2016.
So I moved back up to Seoul. It might have been 2013 when I moved up, I think. That sounds right.
Man, yeah. Our time scales are a wee bit. I'm just old, so I don't know what your excuse is. So
no, I lived there for a few years though. So I went back up to Seoul 2013 or 2014, and stayed to 2017. So it was a while, yeah.
And this time it was a different work experience for you. You were not working in primary school, or what were you doing at this time?
So at that point, I was working. Do you know like Pagoda, the English Academy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I started working at Pagoda in Jongno, and it was Pagoda 1, like the kind of one-on-one classes. It was cool. The job was cool. Loved the job. My managers were cool. I had some good co-workers, some weird-ass co-workers, but some good co-workers as well. And that was really cool. That was a really awesome time. And also, because of like my language, I ended up doing some other side things for Pagoda, like making videos in Korean, teaching some English expressions and stuff. And that was cool. Like, it was cool to have some different side gigs going on, so it wasn't so one-dimensional. But the things that was that I really enjoyed about it was being in Seoul and working meant I had more money, which meant that I could go out and I could meet more people and do more things, you know?
And when you're working at these adult institutes, were you on the kind of split shift to start with, and then it got a little bit better, or was it pretty much split shift the whole way? Because they
No, you got it. You got it right on. So I started off on split shift. So it's like, it's like working in some sort of restaurant or something, like doing 4 hours and then a break and then 4 hours kind of thing, which was a pain. But then I moved on to an afternoon block and then eventually to a morning block, which was ideal because it was working from 7 a.m. on the morning block, which sucked. But it meant that on a Friday, you finish work at like 1 p.m. So by the time my missus finished work, I could already be sourced at home. It's fine.
There you go, a man of action at least,
By the time she got home, I was very much a man of inaction.
We'll save that for another podcast episode. It's kind of confessional and all that. We'll get some of those Confucian guys on it, and they can share a bit as well. So what was it made you move to Japan then, or what was it made you leave South Korea? Were you just in kind of search of a new bit of adventure, or was there something else behind it?
It was kind of a bit motivated by my missus at the time. So we sort of reached the point, like I'd been dating my missus for like 3 or 4 years by then. And we were at kind of a crossroads with what to do, in that I could step away from teaching and pursue a proper job. Like I had a couple of things that were potentials that I could have pursued at that time. But my missus, she's American and she doesn't speak Korean like fluently. So she would have had to have stayed teaching English, and she didn't want to be in that industry forever. So she was sort of pushing for a move back to the UK or the US, and I wasn't really ready to leave yet. And I thought it'd be kind of a missed opportunity not to do something else while we're still, young, without a mortgage, without any of those ties. And so I sort of posited the suggestion of Japan and going to Japan. We've got friends in Japan. And we visited a couple of times, had a great time. So we said, why not go for a year? We'll see how it is. Ended up staying for 2.5 years, as is tradition. But that's how we ended up there.
You got to make your money back somehow, right? So like 1 year technically is 2.5 years, right? That's the ratio.
Oh, you burn 6 months of money in the move, easy.
Yeah, it's a pricey place. What would you say some of the differences work-wise, even if we just talk from a kind of expat point of view, Nick, what would you say some of the differences were work-wise between your time in South Korea and Japan then?
That's kind of interesting. I think in terms of the way that I was able to interact with management across these different times, I felt like there was a bit more flexibility in Korea. People were a bit more willing to bend on something, even if maybe the rules said this one thing, but we can logically see this is a better way of doing something. Then we could be a bit more flexible. Whereas in Japan, I found that if this is what it is, this is what it is. There's nothing else. There's, I wish we could do something about it, but you can see the rules, so nothing we can do there. It felt a bit like that from time to time. When you were saying,
that's where it's
yeah, and so you're like, yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but if we just ignore this for 1 second, we could do this in 3 seconds, no problem. And this way, it takes 20 minutes. But yeah, but we're supposed to do it this way for no reason, and that was it. It was like the kibosh was put down. So
kind of puts a dampener on things, when there's a bit more of a, as you were saying, maybe a more logical way or just an easier way to do something.
Obviously, I can't speak for all Japanese companies. Yeah, well, it felt like it. It felt like it at the time. Yeah, I can't speak for every company, and I can't speak for the whole of the country, but my experience, definitely.
We should mention, where were you in Japan? You were in the same location the whole time?
Yeah, so in Japan, I was working in Ginza in Tokyo, which is,
okay.
I'm not sure how familiar with Tokyo you are, but it's like the Gangnam of Tokyo.
Yeah, right. I've been there many years ago. Yeah,
mm-hmm. It's probably about the same, to be honest. Ginza hasn't changed, but nice. The visa run's supposed to be down to Hokkaido, though. Oh,
Oh, I
right.
know this is
Where's the visa run normally to? Fukuoka. Fukuoka is normally the visa run,
Fukuoka.
isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, this was back in the good old days when they let you off the leash a wee bit more. And I had three Tokyo. And I met an Australian guy in the immigration place, and we went and get drunk in a play at some pub that was he knew that, and another Australian guy he knew worked in, and then we got what do you call it? Happy hour. It's so long since I've been a pub, I can't remember what it's called. But happy hour on a Monday night or something like that. You got
That's depressing.
and
You
then had to
forgot
make the
that.
mad dash. I know. I had to make a mad dash for the last subway, as you know, which in Japan is important. You make the last subway.
Or you get fleeced for a taxi.
Of course, I have no idea where I'm going, half pissed, talking about Tokyo and all that. So yeah, good times.
But I think
man,
that's
yeah.
one
But
of
that was in
the.
a
That's one of the.
Oh no, go on, please.
And I was going to say that's one of the universal experiences that every expat in Japan has is inexplicably getting drunk with an Australian. Like,
I mean, there are worse things you could be doing. It's just,
they usually know where to drink.
Yeah, and this was the first time I'd actually ever seen in a pub I ended up in a pub where the guy, it was either the guy I was with or someone else who was sitting at the bar, didn't have any cigarettes. The barman went out and bought him a packet. And I was like, man, this would never happen in Glasgow, right? It's like, or Birmingham for that matter. Okay, but yeah, it was all very kind of back in the old days when you could smoke in a pub as well. There you go. So
yeah. I mean, he's still in Japan. I don't know if it's changed since I left, but until like 2019, people were still smoking indoors.
So there is some rule breaking going on there.
I guess like because a lot of the places that I used to drink in Japan were kind of small, intimate places, 10 seats, kind of bars. They're way cooler. I really love that style of bar. And yeah, like if all 10 people knew each other, the owner did not give a shit. Just, yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
I remember being in some bar in, not Tokyo, but Osaka. And it was this type of bar. It was maybe 10, 15 seats if it was that. And like the guys get the best kind of vinyl collection that you've seen and all that kind of stuff, And you find quite a lot of these little places in Japan where they're quite into their music or their...
There's vinyl cafes and vinyl bars.
Vinyl cafe. Okay.
I just think vinyl bar is what people would say usually, or LP bar. LP bar actually was quite a common expression for it.
What would you some of the outside the work then? What were some of the other highlights of your time in Japan? I mean, did you get much time to explore?
Yeah, one of the differences with Korea and Japan is the cost of transport. So getting across the country is so much more expensive in Japan. Sorry, like the Shinkansen, the bullet train was not cheap. So leaving the Tokyo metropolitan area was a kind of a rarity. But Tokyo is the biggest city in the world, so there's an absolute shitload of things to do and see just using the subway line. Because, you're covering probably 50, 60 miles around with this subway line. So there's so many great places and places maybe that are not so known or frequented by tourists. Tourists would go to, to like Shibuya and places like in the center, Ginza and Harajuku and stuff like that. But some of the places like Kawagoe was amazing, and it's just a bit out. You can get there on the subway line, and it's got these old, like Meiji and Showa era buildings. These beautiful buildings, like grain towers and stuff. It's gorgeous. But I think the highlight if someone goes to Tokyo and they're thinking, all right, I want to do the crazy city and I want to go out for a little bit, then the obvious and great recommendation is Nikko. Nikko is amazing. Fully recommend it.
I don't know what that is. Maybe you can enlighten me.
Sure, yeah. So Nikko is about 2 hours by train north of Tokyo, and it's this old city, man. It's full of these old. It's like some old temples. One of the old, I think the guy who unified Japan for the first time, Tokugawa Ieyasu, his body is buried there. So there's like these great temples and shrines and stuff, but it's also got like this huge waterfall and lakes and mountains. It's got like a bit of everything. So yeah, I ended up drinking with an Australian there. It's weird, but it's a beautiful place. Yeah, it kind of happened a lot, you know.
Damn Australians, man. So your Japan adventure with your better half, to move on, had you just kind of fulfilled everything you needed to do there within the 2.5 years, and it was time to move on to the next journey, or the next part of the journey?
Yeah, kind of. Well, like obviously, there's so much we couldn't do while we're there. It's a huge country, but we'll go back at some point and do it. You know, like as retirees when we've got some money to burn and no children to waste it on. So we decided at that point anyway that like, all right, I'd sort of taken the piss a little bit with a year in Japan being 2.5 years, and so all right, I should live up to my end of the bargain and we'll move back to an English speaking place. But we kind of thought that the UK would be a great place to set up for a while because her folks live in Florida. It's only like 4 or 5 hours, really. The flight's not far. So it's easy to visit each way. And we wanted to do a lot of traveling in Europe, you know? So we arrived thinking, yeah, this could be great. We can do a lot of traveling in Europe. It's going to be awesome. We arrived, get a job. I got a job in tourism in 2019, which was a great choice because that job didn't last for very long.
We won't even go there, man. It's, yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, but that was the thing. It was like, we definitely not done, but it was time to, you know, come back and start trying to build something that's got a bit more future in it, I guess. A bit more development, maybe, is a better way to put it.
Which kind of leads us into what you're doing now, and it kind of since we've kind of we could dip into the expat stuff a wee bit later on, talk about some of your music and all that as well, and guitar playing and whatever else you've got going on. But maybe we can take a nice segue into then about the channel you've set up on YouTube. So this is the first time I'm speaking to a YouTuber, and I guess you've now qualified as a YouTuber, right? So it's kind of that's you. You get everybody gets a new title. Right? And it means you can sell t-shirts with you can make your own t-shirts with Yeongki Nick on it and all that kind of stuff. Right. Some kind of cool logo, you know, and not get done for copyright and all that. But yeah, a nice segue into your YouTube channel. Tell us all about it, Nick. Set it up for us. Cool.
So it actually ties into what I was saying. So I had a job, right? I had this job with the tourism industry, and that went under because of coronavirus. And so I've got like, you know, work in the in-between, online teaching, it's fine. But the thing that I really took from having that job removed was that I really fucking hate working in offices. Like, they're just the worst people. In the office I was in anyway. And I wanted to be more kind of self-reliant and self-dependent. And so that was the one motivation. And then the other side is, you know, we're in lockdown. We've got all this time. We've got all this freedom. So I wanted to do something a bit more creative with it. So with that in mind, I thought, well, why not YouTube? You know, I can combine a bit of creativity. I can do what I want, have some fun with it. And then, you know, not gambling on this, not planning and hoping, but, you know, it potentially could become something. And it can grow and develop and, you know, maybe work towards something in the future. And the very worst, it means that I can practice and develop skills. That was what I thought at the time. So I was thinking, I wanted to do something that would be using my skills and what I can do. And so I thought using Korean is an obvious one. I speak Korean, so let's do a channel in Korean from a different perspective. Like, you'll be familiar with the fact that there are some channels with white guys or foreigners or whatever who speak Korean, and they really run on that one thread. That's the thing that it's based on, right? And fine, more power to them. That's great. For me, I felt like it was sometimes a little bit what's a polite way to say it?
Like a
Pandering.
one-trick pony?
Pandering to,
Oh,
yeah, one trick pony and pandering. So it's like just shaping themselves based on what somebody else wants them to be. But I thought it'd be fun to go into it just being an English person who speaks Korean rather than a person who's aping Koreanisms to try and
right.
garner some sort of steam.
And of course, you get to be
So that's what I
yourself at
went
the
into.
same time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to put on an act. I don't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I could just be obnoxious and say, "Well, that's just me," you know.
Which is it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, and so like I decided to run with it, and so like combining the Korean thing, like I've also even in a recent video, I did some stuff with music, and I'm looking to introduce music more into the channel as it gets a bit established and as I get a bit of a flow with it, because it turns out it's quite a lot of work. Even just doing one video a week is quite a lot of work. So, but I'm
We
starting to
mentioned that
introduce
in
the
a
music
couple of
into it.
the
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
right. We mentioned that's we had that kind of just eats up all your time. I know I don't do much in the video side, but I know the work that goes into it, and as the channel develops and grows, hopefully, as we're talking about, then you can invest a little bit more in some stuff to kind of help that process along the way. But you still got to put
That's
the hours
it.
in. You got to go to the cold
Oh
face.
god, yeah. You got to go for it. For really, you got to be running it for like it's probably going to be at least a year before I see anything back from it, and that's difficult, I guess. But you have to be realistic, I suppose.
We should mention the channel because we've got about 5 minutes and we haven't told us what. Well, I think I did mention it, but it's up to you. I think
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So the channel is Yeongki Nick, like Yeongki space Nick, Yeongki Nick. The name's kind of a pun. It's kind of a dad joke in a way. But, it's because like Yong is like Yongguk, right? Like England, right? And then Ki is from
Mm-hmm.
Yankee. So for
Oh.
anyone who's not aware, like yeah, Yankee it's kind of an old-fashioned insult in Korea. It has some history, with American soldiers and then just ne'er-do-wells. It's got that kind of old ne'er-do-well, weak insult vibe to it, right? But to modern people, it's not. It's really weak. It doesn't hold any power in that respect. It just sort of feels like somebody who's a bit of a wrong-un, maybe. But I thought it was funny to combine like Jungkook with Yankee together. But it's kind of a funny pun on that. It's like a bit of a joke on that. So, and cause like I say, I wanted to go off this thing. I didn't want it to just be another person just aping and, playing up for the camera and trying to be just an image. I want it to be a bit more just me, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think the videos that I've seen, I can't really remember the name, like Yeongguk Saram or Englishman in Korea or whatever it is. I don't know all of this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
and then there's the kind of reverse ones of the Billy guy who does like the worst accents ever. Like he's just like
Yeah.
no.
He gives it a crack.
Like, no. Well, yeah. Good luck. That's what I'm saying.
It's like,
I mean,
yeah,
you
like
can do whatever.
more. Exactly. It's more power to them and fine, whatever. People like it. They make a living off of it. That's cool. That's great. But it would be disingenuous if I did it. It's probably more the point, I think.
I think me too. I'm kind of in the same boat. I just can't be arsed. You're just like this Muppet. It's kinda, at least in this respect, you get some authenticity with your 10-minute video. Tell us about some of the episodes that you've put out, Nick. How many in total so far?
I think we just uploaded like the 9th one. I think it was this week was the 9th one. There's been a bit of a variety with stuff. So we've had some. We started off with a couple of there's some language ones because obviously background in teaching and learning a language and speaking a language. So there are some teaching like language learning ones, but then some of the more interesting ones, the ones that I'm more enjoying. We had the most recent one was just speaking to my girlfriend all day in Korean and slowly winding her up with it, which was thoroughly enjoyable for me, not
Definitely
her.
with her
She
work
was.
because she's very. You can just tell that she's
She
just
held
like,
a
let me
smile
just
for a while, but yeah, you can see it behind the eyes, right?
totally. It's and then you're kind of
there was
flipping her
one.
on. You're like, yeah, that's right. You got it.
Oh, Tadic! Come on. So there's stuff like that as well. Yeah, it's good, man. Like, I've done some like cocktail making videos, recipe videos. I did one as well, which was like music, like song intros, Korean song intros, which was pretty fun to do.
I got 0 out of 10.
Honestly, I had to look up some of the songs myself beforehand.
So yeah, it's a nice kind of part. There's a bit about food as well. There was Christmas you did, and over the kind of festive period and all that. There's a nice variety of things to kind of ease yourself into the language. What kind of feedback have you had, Nick, and who's the kind of feedback been from?
It's been positive. Like, it's going well. Like, so I've obviously when you start something like this, you get like an influx of friends and family who, you know, for the most part, will subscribe, watch 1 or 2 videos, and then they just, you know, it tails off because of course it does. It's not their wheelhouse. Fine. But what's been really fun and really interesting is noticing this slow, because obviously it's slow at the moment, it's a new channel, but people slowly coming in where I'm getting this mixture. Like, I've had people who host other channels who've started to watch and comment, and people from like cooking channels or like Korean history channels and stuff have slowly started to come in, language learners, things like that. And I've had a couple of Westerners as well, like, messaging me and asking tips for languages and how to do certain things. So it's been a real mixture of people, which is kind of interesting for me. I had not a fear, but I was maybe concerned that it might be a bit one-dimensional. But it seems to be attracting quite a spectrum of people, which is it's cool for me. It makes it more interesting for me to be being able to churn out like a more diverse range of material, I guess.
And I guess this comes as well from it can be as creative as you want it to be and as diverse as you want it to be, and as it's kind of natural to have kind of certain not fears or apprehension or apprehensive about certain things, but at the same time, the things that you can come up with in the middle of the night, you're sitting, you think, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I'll put that one down, and then it just kind of it kind of grows organically.
And yeah, it could be something silly, and then it, you know, you start to flesh it out, and you're like, oh god, actually, no, this is an idea. This could be fun. Like, I would watch this. And when it gets to the I would watch this phase, it's the same as when you're writing music, right? If you write something like I would listen to this, then you know you're onto something.
Yeah, I had some nice compliments today about the last episode I did of the pod, which was quite nice. So it always helps to kind of boost the ego a little bit as well. But you also get that kind of that reward in the sense that, you know, someone is taking the time out of their day to listen to it and then they said, oh yeah, I like this bit and that and so on. And you're like, great. I'm glad I've made someone happy.
Absolutely. Because you're putting yourself out there, you know, you're making yourself kind of open to people. You're showing your hard work, your effort, your ideas. And if somebody was to shit on it, well then that would sting. Even if you didn't want it to sting, even if you think, oh, this is just some guy from the internet, it doesn't matter. It would still sting a bit. Yeah.
You haven't got to that stage yet. You haven't had any.
Oh, no, I'm not successful yet.
Okay, so it's early days. We can end
it is early days. When I get the first hate comment, then that'll be the indication, I guess.
Because you know it's coming. You know what oink is?
Oh, not really, to be honest.
You know the oink thing on Facebook. So it's an acronym of only in Korean.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure someone will come across your channel and I'll be like, check this Muppet through Birmingham, you know, and I'll be like,
oh right.
Then they'll just kind of make fun of you because you can speak Korean and they can't.
It's kind of
check it out on Facebook. It's called Oink.
Oink. All right, but I mean, fair enough. I mean, there is that expat community, like within the expat community, there's like a subsection, right, of just strangely bitter people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we all came across them, and it's just
to be remotely successful or remotely talented, or just you know doing your own thing and not really
enjoy the country.
Yeah, I know it's just yeah, you're right. There is a certain kind of element. Maybe this is an expat thing. I don't really know, or it's just this kind of cross section of society that you end up with, you know, all in the one place. Or they're,
It's
or
just
they're living in a town where they can't speak to anyone, or who knows, or they're just.
but that's everybody else's fault. That's not their fault. You have to understand that.
Totally. What kind of things do you have in the pipeline then? Are you also on? Have you kind of experimented with different social media, like I'm trying to think what it is, Instagram and so on, TikTok, things like that?
Right.
You know, you're going to implement
No,
these
that's a
things
good
into it?
question. So I've been looking into it and
It could
thinking
be
like
45 minutes.
no, I've been trying to because I don't have another social media account set up yet. I was focusing my first couple of months on YouTube, but Instagram will be coming soon. I pretty much decided that's where I'm going to start to branch out. It's interesting because the things that we would think of, like if we were doing something in the UK now or in Europe or America, where TikTok would be an obvious avenue for us, it's not so strong in Korea at the moment. Like, in fact, like Instagram's seeing more growth, so it kind of makes sense to go more that way. Even if to us that might seem like Instagram's starting to decline, you know. So I will be doing Instagram, but as of now, I don't have an Instagram set up. But I assume it'll probably be the same title as my YouTube channel, because why would anyone else have that name?
Last words, eh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there?
But yeah, that's it. So yeah.
In South Korea, they're still using a lot of I can't remember, Kakao and stuff like that. You know, for these other kind of platforms that we don't really get outside of South Korea.
Yeah, like I still use Kakao for keeping in touch with Korean mates and stuff, but I think as a sort of means to grow and develop, and like all I want is the same as any creator, I guess, is just to get it seen more, just so you put a lot of work in, you want it to be seen. But I'm not sure that Kakao can do that. Once you reach, I think, a critical mass, then it sort of proliferates by itself. But until then, it's just going to have to keep plugging away at the YouTube, and I'll start with the Instagram and then see from there. I think Facebook is not really important for the Korean market. I think that's on the decline. But I don't know. I've asked my missus is marketing. I'll just get her to do it.
There we go. I mean, one of the things about social media, anyways, is always changing or developing, or there's the next one in the line. Like this new one they're talking about is Clubhouse. Except you can't. It's like the app that you can't join because it's for only or something like that. I don't really get it.
Yeah, it's like Gmail 15 years ago, right?
Right, that's it. So you're just like, yeah, does anyone care about this? Apparently they do. So yeah, who knows, man? It's,
You tell people they can't join, then that's it. People want to join. Maybe I should tell everyone you're not allowed to watch my channel. I don't know. Would that work?
It's the whole Groucho Marx thing about he wouldn't be a member of, no, was it? He doesn't want to be a member of any club that would have him. So
right.
I guess there's some truth in that somewhere.
Right.
I guess last part of the roundup about your channel, like what would you ideally see be in a year with the channel then, if we can kind of go a bit hypothetical?
Ideal. Okay, so I feel like a large avenue of what some of the things that I would like to do is completely blocked off by coronavirus. I can't travel, I can't go out, I can't show people things. So ideally in a year, if things have cleared up a little bit, I would like to be able to do more content about different places, regional places in the UK, introducing some cool things about the UK to people. And I would like if my Facebook can get to the point where it's starting to sustain itself, like I don't have to worry about making ends meet outside of it. Like, I'm not talking about being like crazy rich from it, but if it can make its ends meet, then it would really open up the doors to give me more time to focus on it and then really explore what I can do with it. So I think, yeah, if it can wash its own face, and if I can get out and do more interesting stuff and go to small places, show people like a distillery tour or stuff like that, like that'd be really cool.
I mean, you're not far from Peaky Blinders country, right? Or you are in Peaky Blinders country.
Absolutely.
You can add all this kind of historical context of the Black Country or whatever it is. I mean, it's endless, really. We systems and things like that. I mean, you can just kind of run wild.
Yeah, the real problem with that, I suppose, is that a lot of Peaky Blinders is centered in Small Heath, and as an Aston Villa fan, that's kind of troubling.
You're
So
not going to go there.
not in a Villa shirt, anyway.
Well, I was going to say you just have to be careful. You can't even go when it's dark, right? It's even worse probably. So yeah,
That'd probably be worse. Yeah, but no, that's
shall
another
switch
thing. Like,
in.
Yeah, football rivalries aside, that kind of thing. There's a whole wealth of things that you can show, places you can go, and if I could implement travel into it at the same time, as well as doing like cultural and fun and music based stuff, because they don't have to be individual. You can do something about the music scene in a certain place, and that could be a video. Like it can go from there. But I just need things to open up. And yeah, if we get to the point where it can start to wash its own face, like I said, then that would be better than I have any right for it to hope for it to be.
Tell us the name of the channel one more time, then.
Sure, that's Yeongki Nick. Yeongki Nick. So that's YEONGKI space Nick, NICK. Yeongki Nick.
And that's the name of the YouTube channel, and from there you'll link everything to wherever you're going in the future.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it won't be too long.
Hopefully, if it starts to go well, you can get on the gravy train.
Oh, sweet! You get to mess around with all those. Instagram's great, but it's a pain in the ass with all the different, like the sizes, the frames and all that, and you've got to add this frame to it and that one, and it's a bit fiddly.
Oh man, it's annoying. I've been using a lot of Canva. Like if you need to do that sort of stuff, Canva I found is really useful. Yeah.
I use that myself. It's pretty good, but I find Instagram a bit of a love. The one thing I've kind of realised about doing this channel is a wee bit I just don't have the thumbs, like the young kids do. They have the thumbs just for doing stuff.
I don't have the thumbs.
It's the thumbs one. I'm kind of like, just like taking my time and all that, pushing buttons and stuff, and everyone's like with thumbs, It's a generation of web feet or something. I don't know.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's one of the things that I've learned about this channel as well is there's so much content out there, and if you can differentiate yourself from it or kind of set yourself apart in your own niche and have good content that people enjoy, that more particularly that you enjoy putting out there, then hopefully rewards in it there for you.
Hopefully, fingers crossed on that one. And it's the same for all of us, right? Like potentially there's enough of a market out there for all of us. It's just getting to the point where you can reach it, I suppose.
That's my unusually optimistic Scottish personality coming out. That won't come out very often. So there you go. You get your 30 seconds of a bust. Top 5, Nick. I'm going to throw some questions at you. You ready? A guilty pleasure. Someone you shouldn't be listening to, but you do.
I find that really difficult to say like an artist, like a whole artist's work that I like, but there's definitely a song or two here or there that I know artistically and pretentiously I shouldn't enjoy, but I kind of do. And I think maybe the most egregious of all of them is probably like Candyman by Christina Aguilera.
It's all right. It's not a bad pop song.
Well, man, it's stupidly bubblegum in its delivery. Yeah. It's way over the top, but it kind of goes so full cheese that I can enjoy the cheddar. You know what I mean?
Right, okay, that's a fair shout, I'd say. I mean, if you compare it to some of the other stuff she did where she really got to sing, as in that kind of belting some of these songs out, it's a bit on the other side of things, eh?
Yeah, it's a bit fun. I think maybe that's why I still enjoy it, is because it's so unabashedly just fun. And that's fine, I'm okay with that. I mean, I enjoy things that are just fun. I listen to a bit of, stupid pop punk every now and again. So when something's just fun, I guess I can enjoy it for that.
We'll need to get through the day somehow, right?
You're right.
Who should
my
we
drink's
be listening
empty
to
already,
now?
so.
Who should we be listening to?
That's a good question. I think like there's some obvious ones, like I think maybe like I'm 100% sure somebody else will have already said something like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards, right? Which are great, but we know that they're great, right?
Yeah, and they
surely.
I saw a thing they're just going to release another like 2 albums or something in the next week or something ridiculous. You know, they're just forever.
Have you been to sleep? If you've been to sleep and woken up, there's probably a new album out.
It's a double album release, you know.
Right. But so that like something like that's kind of a given. And actually, the Pretty Reckless just got a new album out, which is really cool. With some good, there's some good collaborations on there. Like Tom Morello's on the album, and what's the guy's name? Kim from Soundgarden. He's on the album as well.
Guitar player,
which is great. Yeah. Oh man, he's fire as well. His wah wah sound is just out of this world. It's awesome. Yeah. But I think as I've been talking about Korea so much and my channel's in Korean, I think shouting out a Korean artist would be a good idea. So I got 2, I think. So my favorite Korean band of all time is a band called Nastiona, which is Nastyona, Nastiona. And Nastiona are awesome, and you should listen to them because they are one of the few bands that I can think of that are kind of unique and a bit weird in their sound, but it doesn't sound like they're trying to be unique and weird. It just fits what they're doing. It works. Like, the same way the first time you listen to like Portishead or the first time you listen to Bjork or like an old Radiohead album, you're like, nah, I get it. This is weird, but there's a reason.
Right.
You know? They do that. They're awesome. I don't know if you know them, but they are awesome. Strongly recommend them. They're from Busan, I think, actually. Like, been around for a while. Good. And a more modern shout would be a band called Jambinai. Jambinai. Jambinai, Jambinai. And they do this kind of fusion, kind of post-industrial rock thing, but they also use like electric guitar and then traditional instruments as well. There's a great track called Time of Extinction, which is just, that's fire. Like 100% check that out.
Definitely going on the playlist then. I'll check those out. Yeah, it's great getting new recommendations from far and wide from the guests. That's one of the things I really enjoy about this little segment too. Tell us something on the flip side of this, Nick. Tell us someone who you just don't get or someone who you think's overrated. Since we're being all positive.
Yeah, I'm sick of that, right? So, like, I should be like clear. I love a huge range of music. I listen to not just guitar music, but I like rap and I like hip hop and stuff as well. But I do not understand why people like Drake.
Yeah, and he also does a song every other week, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's incidentally, it's consistently shit, and I just don't get it. You know, there's so many great artists out there, great urban artists, great hip hop and everything, and all these different styles that are available, and yet Drake is the one that's like risen to the top. Just like a shit you can't flush, man. I can't stand that guy.
I mean, it's one of these quiz questions, you know, I just have kind of wake up and screaming in the middle of the night. I'm doing a quiz somewhere, and the question is name three Drake songs, you know, and I'm like,
trick question. It's all the same song.
Like. Exactly, right. And you just think, yeah, the only thing I know about Drake is he does that meme. Like the one when he's wearing the kind of yellow jacket thing and he's looking one way, and then he's looking the other way, right? That's the only so maybe we should
That's enough. That's enough of his contribution.
Definitely. Go to Noribank song or karaoke for those who are out with the Korean language.
All right. Are we talking English or Korean?
It's all yours, man.
I think if I'm going in there and people are like, yo, Nick, the vibe is down, we need you to get up there, blast out your favorite karaoke song, and I want people to get high, I'm going Sabotage by Beastie Boys every time.
Fantastic. Excellent.
How about you?
Right into
what's your bang? Oh, God, yeah. Man, straight in with the big first note. Can't stand. You go straight into it. It's great.
You get that the bit going and all that.
It's so cool.
A lot of guitar. You don't have to sing very much, and they're quite short, right? Everybody knows them.
Right.
Or maybe the odd Beatles
That's
song, I guess.
fantastic.
Something a bit like a kind of cheery Beatles song. One of the kind of older, or the earlier stuff rather, the kind of She Loves You or something like that, where it just kind of
Right.
2.5 minutes and change, you're done, right? And it's kind of next. That's me. I kind of drop the mic and follow that.
I guess your other option is stick on Hey Jude and get the room to sing it for you.
You can disappear, go for a pint, come back, and they're still singing the chorus.
Go for a smoke.
What about earlier we were just talking about venues, and you're not far from one yourself, you're saying. So the last question in this, Nick, is your either the best venue you've played at or the best venue you've seen someone in?
I think I'll go with the best one I've seen someone in then. Because most of my venues that I've been in have just been, they're kind of dive bar sort of venues. They're fun, but they're much of a muchness. But one that I found really interesting because it was a dive bar, but it was hosting someone big, was the Underground in Stoke. So I should clarify that the Underground in Stoke it's a bit of a dive. I mean, it's the same as a million rock venues you've been to. It's small, black walls, tatty, a bit sticky in places it shouldn't be sticky. But I went in there and I saw it's packed, by the way, with about 120, 150 people. It's packed. It's not a big venue. But I got tickets to see Baby Shambles play there, and it was just amazing. Yeah, this big, famous band playing, and in this tiny, tiny, cramped venue. And there was just something about that combination that was just great. But maybe that's tied in more to the gig. Maybe something a bit more interesting. Did you ever go to Satan's Hollow in Manchester?
No, I haven't. No.
Right, it's a venue in Manchester, and the stage is in the middle of and the dance floors around it in a circle, like a donut shape. So I saw Streetlight Manifesto play there, like the ska band, and it was just amazing. Like they were in the middle, and it's like you're just surrounding them, like a scene from Mad Max or something. That was really cool.
In South Korea, what were some, or even Japan for that matter, notable venues?
I think notable for ones that I really enjoyed. There's some landmark ones. Like everybody's been to FF and places like that. They're kind of famous ones. And there was also Sangsang Madang was really good in terms of it was a modern, clean. Yeah, with a good sound system in the basement, right? But I think in terms of being like a center for a lot of indie at the time and what a lot of the scene was about, Thunder Horse was awesome. I loved Thunder Horse.
Yeah, it was a nice setup in there as well. And I don't know if you ever went in the original Thunder Horse when he just had it at the back of Gecko's. It was kind of down that street.
Oh God! Right,
and it was like a tiny place. It was like, I mean, it really was a 20-person bar kind of thing. And then he moved down to Noksapyeong, Gyeonggi-dan kind of way.
Yeah, just on the corner sort of area, wasn't it? Yeah. No, I'm familiar that was there, but I don't think I ever went in when it was like that. But when it went to the second venue, when it was in the basement with the kind of a nice setup, it was nice to play there as well.
Questionable toilet facilities.
Yeah, they were the ones upstairs, right? They were a bit.
I think you had to go upstairs and outside, and So what?
That's it. Yeah, that's definitely
in some Asian cities. So we should leave the rest to the imagination.
Yeah, it was an experience.
On that bombshell, we've got to an hour, so we better wrap it up because I don't know if they'll let me go much longer. Or
no worries.
Lose my